Now we're going to focus on some after effects of the moment. I got three things I want to talk about. The first one is this. Divine moments have more than that initial impact. Right? There's more than just an initial impact. Look at verse 15. Now this is happening after Jonathan climbed up the cliff, after he picked the fight with the Philistines. That's already started. And it says, then panic struck the whole army. Those in the camp and field, and those in the outpost and raiding parties. Jonathan and his armor bearer, they only went up after one of the outposts. 20 guys. That's all that was there. But this panic goes through the whole army, out in the fields everywhere. And it shook the ground. And it says that it was a panic sent by God. Now the technical definition of the word impact is a forcible contact between two or more things. That's a pretty good description of how men and women are used to shape the course of human history. When you seize a divine moment, there's a spiritual collision. The Bible teaches us that our battle isn't against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities all over the place, in the heavenlies. When you seize that divine moment, that's what's happening. And let me tell you, hate does not surrender easily to love. Have you ever noticed that? Nor does evil submit quietly to good. But the power of God, of His impact in a divine moment, is more like an aftershock. We really see it in the aftershock. The after part of this word is a reminder that whenever God does something through people, those people are often considered fortunate only in retrospect. Have you noticed that? You know, we think, oh, Moses was great, Abraham was great, King David was great. But in the heat of the moment, I don't know if we would have thought those things. What about Jonathan? If the army was awake when Jonathan and his armor bearer were climbing up, they would have thought, this guy's nuts. I don't want to be like him. So it's in retrospect that things look better. While Jonathan was at war, fighting with all of his strength, 20 guys, but it takes a lot of strength to go after 20, God was doing more. Way more. He shook the earth and sent a panic through the camp. He didn't want anybody to miss this moment. Everybody was going to know this was God. And whenever we're willing to bear that initial impact, whenever we choose to seize our divine moment, and they're always before us, one after the other, we create that opportunity for God to shake things up and do more than anybody would expect. So divine moments have more than the initial impact. Second thing here, the aftershock of divine moments attract interest. It really attracts interest. Let's start in verse 20. It says, then Saul and all his men assembled and went to the battle. They found the Philistines in total confusion, striking each other with their swords. That's pretty interesting. Now, this is Saul and his army who didn't want to go to war. They were sitting under their pomegranate trees. All right? It gets interesting, so they go to war. Then it says those Hebrews who had previously been with the Philistines and had gone up with them to their camp went over to the Israelites who were with Saul and Jonathan. When all the Israelites who had hidden in the hill country, here's another group, they saw the Philistines on the run, and they joined the battle. Whenever we choose to engage in a divine opportunity, there's a real potential of bringing other people into the presence and purposes of God. Real potential for that. And it's not us bringing the attention. It's not when it's a God thing, not when it's a God moment. We don't bring the attention. Jonathan didn't have time to bring the attention to himself. He wasn't trying to market himself and make sure everybody saw what he was doing. that would have been the kiss of death for him. If he turned around and said, "Hey, Dad, bring the army up," poof, he would have gotten it right in the back. He couldn't stop. He was completely focused on his task. Completely. He was just doing what was right. And it was God who raised the awareness of everybody to see what Jonathan was doing. When I think about this church and all that we want to do to grow and reach more people and do all that, I think it's so important, most important. Maybe it's the only thing we need to do for a while sometimes, is immerse ourselves into the four-part process we have here. If we immersed ourselves into that four-part process, if you don't know what that is, it's on the front of the program, down at the bottom, the logo there with the water flowing around. It's loving God. It's connecting with His people. It's serving the body of Christ right here in this church. And it's going out and reaching the world with the love of God. That's why if we immerse ourselves in that, if we're focused on that, then that's the best marketing strategy we could ever do around this church for growth. Because God will bring the increase. Now, I don't mean we shouldn't do anything else. I don't mean we shouldn't have whatever we do around here to attract people. But the real attraction, when it's a God thing, is by us just doing what we're supposed to be doing. Here's my logic in this. Why wouldn't God make a church grow where the people in it are loving God with their whole heart, soul, mind, and strength? Not just, oh yeah, I love God. But I mean, worshiping. Everything in my life is about focusing on God. How can I bring God into this? How can I bring God into my life this way? How can I share God on my baseball team? You know, why wouldn't God make a group of people like that grow? Wouldn't He want more people worshiping Him? What about this? Why wouldn't He love the fact that we are making connections with each other? Not just superficial junk, but real connections where we're sharing life with each other and sharing our downfalls and our shortcomings and praying for each other. Why wouldn't God want more of that going on? And what about finding out how you're wired up and how you could serve in a church and help people with your talents and gifts and your resources? Why wouldn't He want more of that going on? And then the fourth part, I really have kind of two questions. Why wouldn't God want more of us going around and spreading the good news? Taking the love of Christ outside of here somewhere else. I mean, why wouldn't He want more people doing that? And the second little question in that is, if you were doing the first three parts, you're really going full blast in that, how could you keep your mouth shut to not tell other people about it? You would find ways. Oh, David, I don't know that many non-Christians. Or David, everybody I know, they already go to church. You wouldn't be able to contain yourself if you really were into that marketing strategy of God. Just doing our things, focusing on those four things. This is one of the wonderful things about seizing the divine moments. It pulls others into their divine moment. Who knows? Who knows what sharing you could be doing that would bring somebody into a divine moment right here on this property or with God somewhere else? Who knows? It shouldn't surprise us that by following God into a moment, that God would choose to shake things up, disrupt the status quo, and get people interested in what's going on. Jesus' life on earth was so compelling. The way He lived each moment caused people to feel this magnetic pull toward Him. When He moved into a divine moment, people could see God. And just about every moment of His life, if not every moment, was a divine moment. They were seeing God. And the same thing can happen with us. Divine moments attract attention. Now, a third one, and I want to stay here the rest of the message. The aftershock of divine moments unlock future potential. Have you ever been thrown into the fire? I mean, no warning, thrown into the fire, thrown into the deep end of the pool, no pregame warm-up. Someone just saw raw talent in you, and they threw you into the fire. You ever been there before? You know what the aftershock of that usually is? Wow, I never thought I could do that. I never thought that would happen to me. You hate those moments when they come at you, but you love it when you come out of them. Love it. That's that thing called potential. You're full of potential, and then you get to see it. There's something about this, though. There's a point in time when you're not supposed to be full of potential. Potential is a glimpse of what could be, but there needs to be a shift when you move from potential, having potential, to being potent. It's got to move to there. Jonathan's potentness resulted in the transformation of 4 groups of people. I want to go through these 4 groups. First of all, Jonathan's moment caused the faithful to be unleashed. Unleashed. Now, if you go back to verse 14, it says, in that first attack, Jonathan and his armor bearer killed some 20 men in an area about half an acre. Now, we've only lightly mentioned the armor bearer, but he was there from the very beginning of the moment. And in some ways, he may have been braver than the two guys. He may have been braver. Remember, Jonathan had a sword, and Jonathan was taught how to use that sword. The armor bearer was just carrying equipment. But in that moment, he was translated from one who had potential to one who was potent. Isn't faith a really big word? Think about faith. It's a huge word. While faithful is a word that, I don't know, it's kind of an ordinary word. If I were completely honest, I'd rather be known for my great faith than my ordinary, mundane faithfulness. Think about it. Faith. Oh, David, well, he's faithful. He's really a faithful guy. He's always there for you, But what about King David with his faith? And Moses and Ruth and all these people in the Bible. The armor bearer followed Jonathan into battle. He was faithful. And then he walked out as a warrior. He changed. When we choose to seize divine moments, God creates this environment where others are unleashed to fulfill God's potential in them. So that's one group of people that this kind of Jonathan factor can affect, the faithful. Another thing Jonathan's potentness did was that it ignited the apathetic. Last week I talked about acquiring the guts to jump off that high diving board. There were other kids around who were really more afraid about it than I was. They didn't look scared. I was the one up there with my knees knocking. They didn't look scared because they were apathetic. They had gone past the fear place. They had gone to the place where they were just on to something else. They were thinking about something else because there was no way they were going to do that. So why even think about it?